Hey guys, you're watching Soundwaves TV. I am Chasta, your host with Maurice Tani. Thank you so much for coming in.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I love the cowboy hat. It makes me feel very at home. You guys know I'm from Southern Oklahoma, raised with country, blues, Americana, all of that. So I feel very warm and fuzzy right now.
Well, I think cowboy hats are at home just about any place west of the Mississippi.
I agree with that. But you're from San Francisco originally,
That's
right? An artist from here, but then moved to Texas at one point.
I did a little time in Texas, did a little time on the East Coast,
Yeah.
but like most kids from San Francisco, I think we grew up in this liberal bubble, and I always thought that I'd be sort of driven back very quickly. Turns out I can get along with just about anybody.
Nice.
But it's the weather
Yeah.
that drove me
Oh,
back.
yeah, of course.
I'm raised I'm from a place where when the temperature gets over about 80 degrees, I am simply suffering.
Yeah,
And
and that Texas heat is not forgiving.
And when the temperatures plunge into the low 50s, we're
Yeah.
putting on sweaters, putting the top up on the car. It's inhumane.
It is so true. That is so true. So you are an artist. Describe your music to anyone who has not been familiar with you yet.
I
don't want to put you in a box, but just in case.
Well, asking someone to describe their music, some people can be very precious about this, what the absolute, how narrow is your niche.
Right.
My stepmother was an opera fan, and she divided all of music into two basic categories.
Okay.
There was opera and classical, and there was popular.
Okay.
I play popular.
Okay. I love that. That's great. That is the anti-box answer to that question. No,
Yeah,
it's really good.
inside of that box, I would say that I'm described as a singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
I was raised with California country, and then all the singer-songwriter people out of the 60s, I guess we're talking about Paul Simon, James Taylor.
Yeah.
More contemporary people might be Robbie Fulks or.
Those are all good names to be in line with, by the way.
Yeah.
We were having a conversation before we hit record, and it's you talking about how you used to be in kind of a honky-tonk band with all males, and you had a very specific kind of music then. And then you brought a woman in and started writing lyrics that could be sung by her. And we were talking about how that kind of brought out a vulnerability in you. I wanted to hear you talk about that and share that with our audience, because I thought that was really interesting.
The point I was making at the time, back 2 or 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, about 3 minutes ago.
Was that I came from at the time I came from a bar band background,
Yeah.
and I had a band that was a 4-piece, 2 guitars, bass, drums, 4 guys, testosterone-driven,
Yeah.
kind of honky-tonk band.
Yeah.
And when that band broke up, I started working with a feminine American vocalist.
That's what you said. I was hoping you were going to say that again. A feminine American vocalist. I love that term. I'm stealing that from you.
And I started writing for her, and I discovered that having that voice, that feminine voice to sing the material, gave me license to write material that I wouldn't be comfortable singing myself. There was a certain level of vulnerability that I was able to put into somebody else's mouth that I didn't feel all that comfortable with
I
myself.
love that.
But through that process, I began to get in touch with that side of lyric writing, and so at this point, I found myself in positions where I needed to sing the material myself, and I found that I could.
Yeah.
And so it was a growing experience, and it reflects greatly in the writing, I think.
It pushed you out of your comfort zone, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Made you more of a well-rounded artist, which is always, I think, what you want to do. You always want to keep pushing those boundaries.
Well, the ironic thing is what it allowed me to do was push somebody else
Yeah.
into my zone that was not comfortable. And then once I saw that the water wasn't so cold after all, I was able to get in myself.
It's actually kind of a
That's
genius.
terrible,
No,
isn't it?
it's terrible and genius all at one time. I love that.
It's like I pushed you into the pool.
Yeah. How's the water? Okay, I'll come in. So you're a part of Little Village Foundation as well.
Right.
I want to talk about that because I really find this whole concept fascinating. So what is Little Village?
Little Village is a very unique record label that was founded by a guy named Jim Pugh. Jim has been in the music industry for 40 years or so. He spent 35 years as the producer and keyboard player with Robert Cray. And about 4 or 5 years ago, he left Cray and was at that spot of what do I do next? Does he want to join another blues band? He certainly got the credibility and the connections to do that, but he decided he wanted to do something that was going to be more fulfilling, kind of on I'm going to use this word service, it was a chance for him to do something beyond simply promoting himself.
Yeah.
And so he founded this, it's a foundation, it's a nonprofit foundation, donor supported. And the idea with Little Village is that he finds these artists that are kind of below the radar, artists that are very diverse.
Yeah.
And it's the thing they have in common is he is attracted to them, and his taste is very broad. They're all pretty amazing artists, and he records them. They produce the record. They do the mixes. They put out. They manufacture the CDs. Those are sorts of things that a regular record label will do. But the difference is that Little Village doesn't take any money.
Yeah.
All of the proceeds go to the artist. The first thing that they do is they give the artist 1,000 CDs, and the artist doesn't pay for any of this. There's no recouping of these expenses. This is all donor supported.
That's great.
So it's like a grant you've been given.
Wow.
And so Little Village takes no money. Little Village owns no intellectual property. They don't take any of the publishing. They hold no rights over the material. Wow. You own your own master.
Wow.
At that point. And
what a beautiful legacy for him to build and leave one day.
well, the number of artists we put out 26 CDs in the last 4 years.
Wow.
And we also do these showcases here in the Bay Area. They're generally at the Freight, and there's usually 7, 8 different Little Village artists on
one bill?
on the bill, and it's like a Whitman sampler
Yeah. I love that.
of the stuff and everybody
That's
has a little
great.
slice of the thing,
I love
and
it.
it's
That's
it's
cool.
an interesting way to get involved.
And it's an interesting way, and it's a way to appreciate the musicians and the artistry for what it is, and not trying to take a buck and not trying to keep rights and all that. So I love the idea of it. It's beautiful. It's great.
I'm not quite sure where the bucks are at this point. The entire industry is really in flux at this point. So
We talk about that a lot
Trying
here.
to find a way to navigate this change in the landscape for
You'll
what the music
appreciate
industry
this.
is.
I call it the Wild West of the music industry right now, because anything goes. We're just kind of creating our own rules, and I think Little Village is definitely doing that. So that's great. I also want to plug a couple of your shows coming up, because Maurice is an awesome artist in his own right, and I want to make sure that people get out to see you.
Right. Well, bearing in mind that we're talking in the future now.
Yes, we are. Just a little bit.
So I've got one in San Francisco at St. Cyprian's, which they have a wonderful acoustic series there, and it's on May 11th.
Okay.
And I'll be playing with Meisner and Smith, another wonderful duo.
Okay.
They do sort of a folk rock kind of thing. And then I have my own shows coming up at the Freight on June 21st, and that will be... I'll have the full band with me there.
Awesome.
Celebrating, as a matter of fact, my new record that it's out was recorded last year at the same venue.
Nice.
Live.
Oh, it's a
And
live
so
album.
It's a
Great.
live album.
Okay.
This is kind of full circle.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm going to try to assemble the same group of people that I had at that one.
That's great. Okay, so your website as well, if you want to find your music.
MauriceTani.com.
Easy enough. Maurice Tani. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's so
Thank you for
fascinating what
having
you're
me.
doing. Little Village, we need more of that. We need more like that. I think it's really impressive, and I love what you guys are doing.
Well, you know,
We'll support it.
the slogan behind Little Village is, or the basic idea is that diversity is in music and art is one of those things that draw people together as into what we all have in common. And this is kind of what we need at the moment.
We need a lot more of that.
We need a lot more of that.
in this world, yeah. Check them out. Maurice Tani, Little Village. Thank you so much for being here. You're watching Soundwaves TV. We'll be right back.